One Love Lottery is a new exciting weekly lottery established to help raise funds for our young people aged 17 to 25 and to generate community wealth in the UK. By playing One Love Lottery for just £1 per ticket, you also stand a chance of winning some amazing prizes, including our jackpot of £25,000 each week. Tickets are available from onelovelottery.co.uk or call 0208 183 1832 for more information. Draws are made every Saturday and you can play as many times as you like. Players must be 16 or over and reside in the UK. Please support One Love Lottery today. United we stand, divided we fall. One love.
You ready? Yeah, you got me running. You got me running, got me running. Shake it, shake it, shake it, baby. Raise your hands up. Raise them up.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to another show. Welcome to the After Dark show. I'm your guest, I'm your host even. My name is Yvonne Michelle, as you know, and it's been a couple of weeks, taken a few weeks off. I have to apologize for taking some time out. It wasn't planned, but you know, life happens. And so I just wanted to reassure you that we are back in full swing, full effect this evening. So how have you been? What has been going on with you in terms of your relationships? Now, I know that there's been loads and loads of things going on. There's been loads of things in the press, and we know that life is still very, very different. And so tonight, our show is all about letting go. Tonight, we have been thinking about what do our viewers need in terms of the letters that we get, in terms of people coming and approaching myself, the panel members. What is the conversation all about? And really, it has been about how do we overcome or let go of past traumas, past hurts, past relationships, past, those things that will really hold us back. Because at the end of the day, we all want to move forward, don't we? We do. And so today, I have a young man with me. I do. A lovely young man, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I have a lovely young man here with me as our special guest, who is a letting go expert. Now, he is an emotional empowerment coach, and he has come all the way from the other side of London. To be here. Daniel, welcome.
Hi, Yvonne. Pleasure to be here.
Good to have you here. So glad. So did you like your little introduction?
I did. Thank you. Yeah. It's the first time I have been introduced. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is how we are. This is how it is on the After Dark show. So I want you to make yourself really comfortable.
Okay, I will do.
And because, we've had some conversations in the past about letting go. And it was really, really interesting to me to find out, you know, why or how you really got into that. But before we do that, I just want to let our viewers know, Daniel will be speaking at the retreat as well, won't you, Daniel?
I will indeed. Yes, I'm really looking forward
Yes.
to you know, be with all these expert speakers as well. So
it's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be brilliant. So Daniel, you know, we're looking at relationships, and we know that we've been living in the pandemic, and you know, lots and lots of things have happened. You know, people are dealing with different issues in life.
Yeah.
And so letting go of certain things, letting go of traumas, you know, one of the things I should say, one of the things somebody contacted me and was talking about was actually loss, is in people passing away and not being able to deal with that in the way that we'd normally be able to deal with that in terms of what's been going on, the way that we've been living over the last 18 to 20 months. So my first question to you really is, you know, what made you get into this letting go thing? What is it, and why did you get involved in it?
Okay, so I'll answer your first question. Letting go for many people it's you know, they look at it different ways. For many people, letting go is about letting go of something external to them. So for example, letting go of a relationship, letting go of maybe a job, or even a home. I view letting go more specifically with regards to what's inside of us, because even if you let go of something external to you, if you haven't let go of the emotion attached to that external thing, then you haven't truly let go and you haven't truly healed.
Right.
So that's what, for me, true letting go is getting in touch with the inner feelings that come up when, let's say, you have a sense of loss, and allowing those feelings to run their course. That's, for me, what letting go is. How I got started on the journey was mainly because within me, I realized I carried trauma. I carried stuck emotions because, you know, we are conditioned to hold on to stuff. We are conditioned to hold on to feelings. Men especially are conditioned not to allow themselves to express grief, for example. Certain cultures are, for example, the English keep a stiff upper lip. There's a conditioning evolved at the cultural level, at the national level, at the family level as well. And ultimately, it's about allowing those emotions to run their course. And I realized that I was very good at suppressing my emotions. I was very good at holding on to things that weren't actually beneficial. I was embarrassed. For example, I was embarrassed to cry at my dad's funeral because, you know, when he passed away, he comes from a Polish background, and I went to Poland for his funeral. And I remember standing at his funeral, and you had all these stoic expressions by the Polish men, you know, without, you know, showing any emotion. The women were crying, but the men weren't crying. And I felt embarrassed to cry at his funeral, which is, you'd think out of all the possible places, you'd be able to cry. But because I was conditioned in that way, or I had that sort of self-imposed conditioning, I didn't allow myself to fully express grief at the funeral. Because I was, So
this is something that most men would relate to, really, wouldn't they? In terms of holding those emotions back and not showing. I mean, you can't escape it. It's all over the internet. Men are like, you know, we can't show our emotions. We're the men, you know, and you know, all this masculine stuff. But I think it's really, that's what really, not just that. Let me just say that in case anyone starts to say, oh, I've just laid all the blame on men. But what can it really cause real issues within a relationship?
I mean, you know, the one thing about sort of letting go is when you do, you find yourself being in a much lighter place. Now, but when you don't, for example, holding on to grief creates disconnection. So grief held on to and not fully expressed because you're conditioned, because you're looked at as weak if you cry, will create a disconnection. So many women will be able to relate to their man perhaps being a bit disconnected.
Right.
And ultimately that comes down to holding on grief, sadness, tears, because, you know, it's looked down upon, men are looked down upon if they express their emotions, less so now. But, you know, when I was younger, definitely then, you know, just 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, and holding on to that emotion pretty much creates a disconnection. And actually releasing grief enables a connection to true connection and love.
Okay.
So, for example, when you release grief that's stored inside of you, then you can reconnect with people. You can reconnect with your kids. You can reconnect with your parents. You can reconnect with your loved one.
Okay.
But if you end a relationship and you don't fully let go because you're meant to be strong, and instead you just hold on to it, then when you go into that next relationship, you won't be as connected with that person, because grief creates a barrier between connection and love.
Right.
So I don't know, does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense, because I'm thinking in terms of, you know, when I talk to clients or when I talk to my girlfriends and they're talking about going into another relationship, for instance. Yeah. You know, it's like you can hear with some of the things that they're saying, the disconnect. Oh, is this, oh, is that? And they kind of keep that person there. But that now I'm thinking, well, is it because, well, I know it's because that they have not fully grieved, or they're still holding on to stuff, so that's what the wedge is. So it's not actually the other person, it's actually this person who's carrying.
Yeah, 100%. Right. But it could also be the other person, because almost guaranteed the other person has done the same thing in some way.
Right.
And women do this as well, because, you know, but women express their grief a lot more.
Yeah.
So they in general tend to be more connected, more loving, because, you know, you're given, if you cry and you're a woman, you're not thought of as weak. You know, it's kind of socially acceptable. But with a man, it's a lot harder to do that. You have to find a strength from within to actually go through that process and to face those feelings. But you're right, 100%. Anyone that doesn't fully express the grief and allow it to run to a state of completion fully will carry it into the next relationship, and that sadness that inner sadness which has been suppressed and repressed will create a barrier.
Right. So when you say run its course, so what does that look like?
It means allowing it to come up and to be felt fully without resistance. And we resist in a number of ways. We resist in the stories that we tell ourselves. We resist when we worry about what people will think of us, which what happened to me at the funeral. That was a form of resistance. So when you let go of that resistance, then the energy, you allow it to flow.
Right.
And when it flows, and then all of a sudden you're stuck in this overwhelm of grief. And most people inherently, a lot of people know they're carrying this.
Yeah.
And I don't know, perhaps you know people that have this sadness, this baseline of sadness. You can tell they're carrying this. And they're scared of just fully getting in touch with it and allowing it to be fully expressed. And it is scary, because when that emotion comes up, most people don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So, and that's the real challenging aspect, you know, because we're not taught, how to get in touch with these emotions, how to really feel them.
Yeah.
We're taught to think about them, but not to feel them.
Right. And as you can see, we've got a Facebook user here. Guys, those of you who are just joining us, I just want to say good evening to Facebook. I want to say good evening to YouTube as well, MediaNet Live TV. I want to say good evening. So if you're in any of the groups as well, if you are in our our exclusive group, the After Dark exclusive group, there is a notice that says StreamYard. Click the link so that we can actually see your name. So you don't have to be known as the Facebook user. So Facebook user here says, this is why we need to work on our limited beliefs and get rid of what society has conditioned us to believe how we should behave. Get rid of
these paradigms.
May have spelt that wrong. That's all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Okay. There's another message here that says, as black women, we are told to be strong and stop crying. I think that, well, that's your story. So how does that make you feel, right? How does that make you feel as we continue to talk?
As you mean as a black woman?
How does it feel? No, I'm saying to the, it's Lorraine. Okay, Lolly Bailey. Thank you.
Yeah, and Laura Hill has a really good point. That is why there's a high suicide rate among men. That's exactly the reason why, because, when we're suppressing these feelings, all of a sudden these strong emotions, negative sadness, create thoughts of depression. And when we don't resolve the emotional aspect, the thoughts multiply, and the emotions literally create thousands, if not tens of thousands, or even millions of thoughts, perhaps negative thoughts. And it's only when we dissolve the emotion do the thoughts cease. And that's really important to understand.
Right.
Yeah.
That is really important. So because all of these thoughts are suppressed,
yes,
they then build up and they get suppressed some more. And then we hold on to them. And if we don't let them go, they just create, is that what you're saying?
It's the actual emotional energy that gets suppressed, because before we were thinking beings, we were emotional beings. So we learn to communicate through emotions, and much of our memories are emotional memories, and they're locked within our bodies as energy. The emotion is the energy. And when it's locked within us, we find ourselves thinking all the time. And we think from the foundation of these emotions. So if we have a lot of anger inside of us, then we will experience a lot of angry thoughts. If we have a lot of guilt, and for example, there's many cultures that carry a lot of guilt, like the Indian culture carries a lot of guilt. And that's why there's many honor killings, and there's shame. You bring shame in the family, and that sort of culture thing creates a lot of guilt, that suppressed thoughts, guilty thoughts. Where sometimes we feel guilty where we have no reason to feel guilty. I don't know if you've ever had that. But
I do understand what you're saying.
So whatever we've suppressed tends to generate the very thoughts we experience.
Okay. So in terms of these thoughts and these feelings, are these feelings that happen now, or do some of them stem from our childhood that we kind of bring with us? Because you were talking about, when your dad passed away and things. So that culture of that stiff upper lip, not crying, is that from our childhood all the way through? Or can it be like something could happen today and then I feel, this way?
That's a very tricky question to answer. I think often our present moment is a reflection of our unresolved past.
Right.
Okay. So what we experience in the present moment and how we react to that is based upon our trauma, our unresolved emotional, suppressed emotions. So, for example, we will attract certain people and situations into our life for the purpose of healing our emotional body. So we may attract someone who's an angry person if we have anger inside of us, so we can heal the anger. Yeah. So even though the anger was at some point, perhaps in the past, even if you believe in this, past lives, trauma carried on from past lives, which was unresolved at the moment of death. Now, I don't know, some of the viewers may not believe in past lives, but it does explain certain aspects of life and what happens when, you're a very young age and you experience trauma then. But in general, if we're just talking about this lifetime, then, a lot of our experiences that we have in the present moment only can occur, the emotional experience, because of what's in the past, because of our unresolved emotional energies.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, okay, so I've had this trauma, how would I have to go back in my on my timeline to actually heal?
To be honest with you, you can do that to a certain degree, but the present moment is going to bring you a lot of people and a lot of circumstances to show you what's unresolved from the past.
Right.
It will bring you the very people that you need, in order to resolve and make conscious your unintegrated emotional energy, your emotional charge. So, I can think about, let's say, I'll give you an example. So when I got divorced, I would find myself going past my home where I used to live, and I would feel sadness.
Right.
Okay. So that happened in the past, but I was experiencing the emotions in the present moment.
Right now. Right. Okay.
So what I would do is I would sit down, I'd stop my car.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd sit down because I knew that was my sadness, my unresolved trauma coming up in that moment. The present moment was giving me that gift.
Right. I'm with you. Yeah.
So I'd sit down with it and I'd just feel it.
Okay.
And inevitably, what sometimes happened would be these tears would come out, and I was experiencing this huge emotion. And I realized that, I hadn't fully let go of, the family connection, the connection I had with, my ex-wife, my daughter, the whole family unit. And that was coming up when I was driving past my old house.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, let me sit with it. Okay. And I'll sit with it. So, but each time I went past, the feeling of sadness was less and less until I felt it was, and now I'm done. I've fully resolved that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Yeah.
That's really, really powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, those of you who are listening and are watching, because we've all been through some kind of trauma. We've all been through something that really knocks the stuffing out of us, right? And sometimes we cry and then we just move on. But have you really resolved the issue? Because when you were talking, because I'm quite a visual person, so actually when you was talking, you say you were driving and you would stop. I could literally see you driving, pulling over, and just sitting there and sitting with it.
Yeah.
That in itself is so powerful. Just so you sit with it, so that the actual situation doesn't consume you, doesn't overwhelm. It might feel like it is overwhelming you because you're crying, but actually you're more in control of your emotions if you just allow them and sit with them.
It's not really about control as such, because that involves some sort of manipulation. It's just allowing yourself to fully feel without any additional story, because it could be you could sit by in your car and say, oh my God, and then go into the story, right? And make it and get yourself in a much worse situation, which is actually, when I first started on this journey, I didn't realize I was doing that until I realized I was adding energy through the story in my head. And it's only when I realized, okay, you know what? I need to let go of the story and feel. I need to, any thought that comes, I just drop immediately and just feel the energy that comes up in that moment, and understand that any thought that arises is just a sort of a rationalization of the feeling you're experiencing at the time. So you just feel it and you're okay. This is just a feeling. It may look like it comes from the actual getting a divorce or a relationship split or losing a house or losing a business. It may look like that, but that could be a projection. It may actually stem from something much deeper from your childhood, where you were never fully resolved an emotion because you lost, a little toy and you weren't allowed to cry, and you were told, who knows? We don't honestly know, because it's all one energy. It's all the same energy. You can't really, you can't be certain.
Right.
So yeah. Okay,
this is quite deep, isn't it? Right. So Facebook user says it's very hard to let go when grieving, but we need to be honest with others and with ourselves to move forward. Lolly Bailey says, I agree with him. She agrees with you, Daniel, 100%. Daniel says, our outside world is a mirror reflection of our inner world. That is Annie Loveland. Thank you for your comments this evening, guys. Get involved. You do know how to get involved. If you are on Facebook, Keyboard Warriors at the ready. If you are on YouTube, you are welcome to put your comments on the thread as well. We do have our panel. We have a panel members coming in a little bit later with their questions on the show. As always, as we always do it, we have our panel. And if you would like to be a panel member, if you would like to be a member, then all you need to do is email info@yvonnemichelle.com. That's info@yvonnemichelle.com. And then I will send you a link and we will have a chat and see if it would work. If you're a good fit and if we're a good fit for you, then you would be welcomed onto the team. But, you can't just be here to just sit and look pretty. No, you have to have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion, you can't be on here. As simple as that. So that's info@yvonnemichelle.com. So if you are interested in taking part in the show and being part of the studio audience, part of our panel, then that is the email for you to get involved and to get in contact. So thank you. So Daniel, we're going back in. So it's all about letting go tonight. It's all about letting stuff. I was going to say another word then. Yeah. It's just about letting everything go. And I know that sometimes that can be really, really difficult. And even though you have said, just sit with it, what does that look like for somebody that's like watching? What does that look like?
It's actually the most simplest thing you could do. It's very easy to just sit with things rather than just be in thought, but we spend our time being in thought. So it's literally just, okay, I'm just sitting, I'm just feeling, experiencing. We find when we feel, there's a particular sensation in our body.
Right.
So for example, sadness may come in the heart. In that
heart space.
Yeah, in that heart space where the heart chakra is. Anger may come from the stomach. So when we experience these emotions, these feelings, we may notice our stomach contracting, our heart pumping, and we just allow these feelings to be there without wanting them to go. That's the key. We have to let go of the goal of feeling better.
Okay.
When you truly let go, when you truly let go, you have to have no expectation to feel better. You're not doing this process to feel better, but get better at feeling. I say this to my clients all the time. So it's not about feeling better, but about getting better at feeling.
Right. It's not about getting better, but it's about getting better at feeling.
It's not about feeling better, but getting better at feeling.
Right. Can someone type that in the thread? Somebody type that in the comments.
Because what it is as soon as you have a goal, there is you place your mind in the future. Yeah.
Right.
And healing only can happen in the present moment, right now.
Right. Okay.
So that goal will mean that you resist any feeling that comes up. So you have a goal of feeling better, and the feeling comes up, that's maybe guilt, shame, uncertainty, confusion as well. There are other feelings. and you want to get rid of a confusion, which means you push against it, and it's therefore it persists.
Right.
It continues because you're pushing against it, and as you know, anything that you resist persists.
Yeah.
So this is really important to understand, to let go of your goals and letting go.
Right.
And letting go.
Okay, so so in my head, because when you're talking about letting go and don't resist, what I'm seeing, I'm just going to go with me.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is, like a pool, swimming pool, like when you just lay and you don't resist the water. If you're somebody that doesn't know how to swim, you tense up and you can't just let it be. You can't float at all. So in my head, my understanding of this letting go is actually to just releasing everything.
That's literally what it is.
Okay.
Even your want to let go, that needs to be let go of.
Right.
And often what I do with my clients is allow them to feel the wanting to let go. Okay, is that wanting there? Yeah. Okay, so could you let go of wanting? Could you just let go of a want? Could you give yourself permission not to let go?
Wow.
So you're okay. I'm going to give myself permission to feel exactly the way I feel. So allow myself to just relax in this pool, in this sea of turmoil, of emotion.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, when you do that, the emotion, you give permission for the emotion to move, and it may get even stronger, and then all of a sudden there's this gets really strong, and there's a pushback, and then there's another pushback. I need to let go of that.
Right.
It's a gradual, very gentle process.
So that could take a little bit of time to get to the end result that you need to get to, or would it?
There is no end result. You have to let go of the end result. You have to truly let go of the end result. Right. You're just allowing whatever happens to happen.
Right.
Because you're being truly unconditional with your feelings. There are no conditions on what you are and what you're not meant to feel, when you're meant to feel it, what time scale you're meant to feel it, how long you're meant to feel it for, how short it. There are no conditions. And when you are truly unconditional with your feelings, you can be unconditional with yourself, you can be unconditional with other people, and you learn to love unconditionally. You learn to love those people closest to you, your children unconditionally. You learn to love your parents unconditionally. But if you have a condition on your feelings, it's very difficult to learn to love others unconditionally. And that's really important to understand as well.
Wow.
Does it make sense?
Yeah. Cause, you're talking, but my head's going. Yeah. It's like calculating stuff in terms of relationship, because we have many in our group. We have a lot of single women, and I think we hear, there's seven women to every one man. We all hear that. Whether we believe it or not, it's another thing. I choose not to believe that, right? Yeah. But then there's the question, and I was at a 50th birthday party at the weekend, and I was sitting amongst quite a few single women. Actually, there was 5 in total, beautiful women. And I was just wondering, why are all of these women single, right? But when you start to talk about the letting go, and because I'm like, just lie still like broccoli, like it's like you've really just got to just let everything go. I wonder if the reason why so many, I'm not saying that women, but why there's so many single people is because that there's all these expectations, and because we haven't let go of all of these things, there's like a barrier in between that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think when we haven't let go, we are scared of being hurt, because we're scared of facing the very feelings that would come up. So we start to create these expectations in order to protect ourselves from being hurt, in order to protect ourselves from feeling the very emotions that we're not comfortable feeling. So that's why we have expectations. It's not really because of the outside, but it's because of an inner thing. We're actually scared to face those painful feelings. Let's say if our expectations are not met, if someone acts in a way which will trigger a hurt that is unresolved. But if we resolve the hurt, we can drop the expectation. Yeah, we don't need to. Why have an expectation if we're not gonna? If we've let go, because it's only the feelings that create the expectations. And this is with everything. This isn't just relationship. You apply this in work, in business, in 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 health, every aspect of your life. You can do this in working with your feelings, because everything is feeling based.
Yeah, that's right.
So even, for example, if you have a feeling that comes up in a business environment, in a work environment, where you expect something from someone, or you expect a call or you to get a contract, because there's a fear, or there's an uncertainty, or there's confusion, whatever it is, whatever feeling is unresolved. When you let go of that feeling, you can drop the expectation, and funnily enough, you're more likely to get what you initially wanted in the first place, because you don't have that barrier
that's in the way. Okay. I am going to read out some comments. Thank you. This is very, very deep. So what have we got? Laura, we're moving. Okay, so right, DS says it's the most difficult thing to just sit with it. You need to train yourself to do that. Seating with uncomfortable emotions takes courage.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it's because we've been avoiding these feelings all our life, and some of these feelings are extremely painful from childhood. And when we're children, we experience these very strong feelings, and they get locked within us. So 100%, it takes a lot of courage to do, and people spend their whole life running away from feelings through addictions, from alcohol, sex, working too much, overeating. So I run something called the Superman fasts, and I run the letting go aspect to it, and people go on there to obviously to fast, just do a water fast. And when they let go of food, all of a sudden these emotions come up.
Yeah, they do.
So the guy that runs it is called Hawks, and he takes people through the process. And ultimately, that people will find that these addictions to food, when they let go of the food, these feelings come up, and now they have to face it, and that does take courage. So 100% right. With that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. That even in terms of my own past traumas, I was actually reading something on Facebook today. Somebody put something on. Is about the Royals, Andrew, whatever he's done, whatever. And somebody put on the thread, why do women take so long to actually speak about the trauma that has happened? Why did it take so long? And I responded by saying, each case is individual, but it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage, to speak about a past trauma, especially if it's yours and it's from your childhood as well, or and it does. So I agree with DS. We are agreeing with you wholeheartedly. It takes bravery. It's not easy. But if you want to move forward, and if you want to release yourself of those things,
you will have to face those feelings eventually. It's like there's this thing in ancient Taoism. There were two methods of self-growth
Okay.
There was the fire branch and the water branch. And the fire branch is like Joe, if you've heard of Joe Dispenza, Anthony Robbins, visualizations, affirmations, raising your energy. It's a more dynamic method. The water branch is like letting go. It's more gentle.
Right.
It's more relaxing. So you can do, but in both branches, you're going to be facing your emotions. You're working with your emotions.
Yeah.
And many people say work with your thoughts and you change your reality. But with thoughts, you can only go so deep. With emotions are the energetic attractors of your life, circumstances, and people. They attract certain circumstances and certain people in your life. Right.
Because that's kind of like, for those who would maybe don't understand about the attraction, maybe like, like the law of attraction that you like attracts like,
So in order to heal a lot of your emotions, you will attract people and circumstances, like I mentioned before, with that corresponding vibration. So, if you're stuck in a relationship where someone is acting a certain way, you've attracted that for a reason.
Right.
To help you heal something within.
Right. But in most case scenarios, when you attract a person that you don't feel comfortable with all the time, you blame that person. You don't see that this is a gift for you to actually, hold on a minute, let me just look at me first.
Yeah.
And then deal with that. But it's always no, or we'll run away from that person or that scenario.
Yeah, there's a really common thing that's going on that I see all the time is if someone's not at your level, leave that person. If they're not vibrating at your level, if they're not if they're not growing as you're going, leave that person. Yeah, it's a really common thing. If someone treats you with disrespect, you should get yourself out of a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, but that misses the point of why you've attracted that in the first place. And when you heal what's inside of you, and when you let go of the blame and just drop all the thoughts and allow yourself to feel the very emotion that's triggered by that person coming to your experience, that emotion can be released from your system, and then all of a sudden that person doesn't have to act that way. Because that emotion is no longer inside of you. The very emotion that attracted that experience has been dissolved because you've done your work. And now you will find that they will start to behave differently towards you.
Okay.
Or they will leave.
Yeah. Right. I was going to say, okay, what happens if they don't? So they will leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So scenario for you, just the thought, because as you was talking, this is how Yvonne Michelle works. So as you was talking, I know that there are lots of men, lots of women out there who have said, oh, I've met this person, right? And they're with this person, but they keep meeting the same person with a different name.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people right now? What would you say to them?
I think deep down, everyone knows, what within them is perhaps attracting this deep down. Yeah. So if you're attracting the same type of person with a different name,
it's just the same scenario.
Then that's the universe bringing you a messenger, but this time the messenger's in a different physical manifestation. Now he's called Simon. Next he's called Dave. But the thing is, don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, because the messenger always comes with a gift. So we're not going to shoot the messenger. We're going to feel the gift. And the gift is the very emotion that is triggered by that person. Yeah.
Right.
In a different form. Yeah.
Did you get that, guys? Did you get that? Danny, I'm going to ask you to just say that again. because this show is about learning.
Yeah.
We laugh a lot on this show, and we show videos and all kinds of silly things. But at the bottom line of this show is about learning, and it's about change. And so there are people who are listening. We've got the silent viewers who, they watch and they don't say anything, but they're getting a lot from the show. So I want you to just say that again so that they can really glean from.
I'll try. So if we're attracting the same person into our experience again and again, but the same type of person with a different name, then it's important not to blame them, not to shoot the messenger, and to experience the gift. And the gift is the very emotion that gets triggered within us.
Right.
Yeah. And that at first it may be anger towards that person, but when we drop blame, we always discover the core emotion that rests underneath the anger. And that is the actual emotion that is attracting this experience into our reality, into this person, or the different people, into our experience who are acting the same way towards us. So when we let go, when we fully face all the feelings that come up within us, and we release those feelings, then we will no longer attract that type of individual again.
Right.
Because they don't need to come into our experience, because we've resolved it. Those inner emotions.
So if that person comes back again, is a different person, that means that you haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You haven't dealt with a root cause. So it's okay. So what within me is still getting triggered?
Right.
When I drop the blame, how do I feel? When I drop the blame, the projection, the anger towards that person, when I drop it, how do I truly, what's underneath that?
Right.
And what is underneath, what will be underneath that are the very feelings that have to be felt. And it could be a feeling of, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, people treat me bad, I should be punished. It could be any of those feelings. I had a lady who was about 70 years of age, and she came to me with a physical problem, and the core underlying feeling that she carried after we drilled through the layers was a feeling that she should be punished. And she must have been carrying that feeling for about 60 years.
Wow.
And when she got in touch with that feeling and really felt it, it was exactly the same place where her physical ailment was. And as the feeling dissolved, so the physical ailment went.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm going to come to you, Dan, because I've got pain in my shoulder. You think I'm joking? I'm actually serious. I've got pain in my shoulder. It's been there for a while. No one knows what it is.
Yeah, I was speaking to a lady yesterday, and I had a pain in my shoulder as well. And when I drilled down to it, it was because I was carrying burdens. It was because shoulders usually, if it's like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Yeah. So you're carrying burdens. So any burdens you carry, have a look at them. And okay, so what am I carrying? What am I truly carrying in my life? Where am I taking burdens on?
Right.
And my shoulder injury came about through ice skating.
Okay.
Yeah, it manifested as an ice skating accident. But when I went into the emotional aspect of it, I found I was carrying these burdens. And when I actually felt the emotion around them, my shoulder pain disappeared. And that was within 2 sessions. Yeah, it took me 18 months to actually to actually be, I say, strong enough to actually get around to doing it and say, okay, what am I really carrying?
Right.
Yeah. And when I actually did it, then the shoulder pain disappeared. And I had a similar thing with back pain as well. And I believe at some level, all illness and disease, when you've removed all the physical aspects, if it still exists, if you look deeper in the emotional, there'll be an emotional cause.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard that many times before. That to look into, your emotional state. If you got this pain that just won't go away, what is it that pain represents? What is it? So
well, we can do. I'm happy to do a session with you.
Okay, Daniel, we'll do that. We will do that. Okay, let's go to some of the comments on the thread. So we've got Laura Hill. She's saying the law of attraction will keep sending you the same type of scenario until you learn the lesson that is being taught. Right, guys. So and that's pretty much true, really. I think
that's so powerful. Yeah, 100% right.
Yeah. We've got to remember that we are the common denominator in our life. Yeah. So whatever is outside of us, the law of attraction is telling us actually check yourself because it could be inside.
Yeah, it's a mirror. The universe is
It's
a mirror.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful mirror. It's
absolutely,
but it's scary sometimes.
Yes. DS says we have to shine our light in our deepest shadow. Once integrated, it will become our biggest gift. Boom. Love that. Love it. Love it. Love
Beautiful,
it.
Yeah.
We're getting some good quotes here. Listen, start putting them together. The Dark Show. Fantastic. Right. So Lolly is saying they are not learning from, okay, look, we're going to go to the beginning, and they're not learning from the messenger and growing from them to find someone better. And then she says, oh my God, I tried telling my mate that she's making herself ill due to emotional trauma, but she thinks I'm crazy. You know, sometimes the universe will tell us directly what it is. It might be for a friend or it might be for us, and we just ignore it.
Yeah.
And the signs are there. You get the download. This is what the issue is.
I had a friend of mine. He's in the US, and he lost his arm in an accident, and he gave me the story of how it happened. And he said the universe kept on sending him signals that he was leading his life the wrong way.
Right.
And it kept on sending, and it kept on sending smaller and smaller signals that he ignored, that he didn't even know were signals. Eventually, it sent him like an 18-wheeler coming up onto the bonnet of his car and ripping his arm off. And
wow.
He said, I ignored all the signals, but this one I couldn't ignore.
No.
And he went through this huge traumatic experience and journey and release of emotion to get him where he is now.
Wow.
But yeah, he said, I ignored all the
signs.
Yeah. So,
all the signs. And that's, you know, if you believe and, you know, and if you are, you know, at one with yourself, and if you, you know, really are a thinker, maybe not a thinker, but if you, you know, are in tune and aligned, that's the word I'm looking for, with yourself, you will know. You will know.
Yeah.
You know, for whatever you want to call it, whether you call it spirit, whether you call it universe, whatever you want to call it, there will be something that will come down and you will just know. And you'll just, you know, ignore. It's like, for instance, you know, I can bring it down to really easy layman term. It's like meeting somebody, you meet somebody and you know within yourself, that's not the person for you, know, because you hear it, you see it, but you will still come and.
Yeah, yeah. But there are no real mistakes, actually, to be honest with you.
No,
so even if you know and you still go down that path, it means you have to learn the lesson. You have to experience a relationship with that person to bring up the very feelings and to integrate them. So then when it comes to making the next choice, you will be like, no, I don't want to make that choice.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we go to, there are no wrong choices, really, if you look at it that way, because the choices I make create the experience, exactly the experiences we need. Yeah. In order to,
we've got to.
But that can be very difficult to, you know, to realize that and to accept that.
Yeah, I think there will be certain scenarios where people say, well, I didn't, and you know, why did I need to learn from that? You know, if you know, like DV, for instance, you're going into a domestic violent relationship, and you know, they might say, well, you know, what lesson is it that I needed to learn?
Yeah.
There, but there is always something to learn. Okay, so Odie Gordon says, means we haven't. Oh, hold on. Oh, there's lots of conversation that's going on, but Odie is saying it means we haven't learned the lesson. Continue. Right. So I suppose if we're meeting the same person over and over again, I would say that. Laura Hill says, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, ladies and gentlemen, we are here and we are talking about letting go.
Yeah.
We're talking about, you know, really taking responsibility really for yourself and being able to sit with whatever it is And it's really being brave. Do you know what? I've got a tagline. It's like, be bold, be brave, be brilliant, but be you. And as you're talking, this is like, yeah, this is what this means. Because I think to really let go, it's a bold move.
Yeah.
To say, right, I'm gonna grab this horn by the hands, and I'm gonna let go of this thing, even though I'm holding on to this thing, and then you get brave.
But you have that's the part of you that takes that journey, that takes that step. But the letting go process is, I don't know how to let go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yvonne doesn't know how to let go. I say this to my clients all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You give up control of a letting go process to maybe something higher than you, to God, to the universe, to source, to your higher self, because it has to be done from beyond the mind. Yeah. It's got to be done, because the mind is the one that's holding on.
Yeah, scary. For me, not saying not to do it, but I know that you have to be brave to do this. You want to be brave to do this, and I go back to the swimming, because I know what I'm like. That's why I'm saying this, because I know what I'm like on that letting go. Like I'm like laying back, and I'm like, no, and I'll bring myself up, because there's this fear. There's this, if I let go, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But what will happen is you float. You just float, and your body just does what it needs to do for itself, and it will protect you. But it's that
step.
Yeah.
And everything can be let go of as well. For example, confusion, uncertainty, fear, doubt, even feelings that we don't even think of as feelings can be let go of. Yeah. So if I don't know which direction to take, that feeling of not knowing can be felt. And when that feeling of not knowing just starts to dissolve, what comes after not knowing? Knowing. Yeah.
That's right. Knowing comes. I'm going to look at, what time are we on? Because we have our, bang on. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. So we have our panel. Our panel are in the green room, and they're going to come in shortly. But we are going to play our little video, our advert for the retreat. So just to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, look, we have a retreat that we will be putting on 29th of August, 29th of October to the 31st of October. Daniel is one of our speakers, and we'll be doing a workshop on letting go. So if you are holding on to stuff, and only you know what you're holding on to, if you are holding on to stuff and you want to take that step forward to release yourself and to, have a renewed life, really, then I would suggest and I would invite you to join us at the R Retreat, which is in Whittlebury Hall, which is in Northamptonshire. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. And I do believe that we are going to be playing the advert. Are we ready? Welcome to the R Retreat, located at Northamptonshire's Whittlebury Hall complex, a 4-star hotel providing a luxury spa and golfing experience with the finest food and sports facilities. Absolutely everything that you could ask for to relax and recharge. But not only that, we have provided the best relationship and well-being speaker experts to empower you, to give you tools, tips and strategies of how to develop and grow your own relationships with self and with others. So come and recharge, re-energize, realign and rebuild. Book your place today at the R Retreat, Whittlebury Hall, Northamptonshire. This is the time for you and you alone to give back to you. Okay, so you've seen it there, the R retreat. So the link will be in the description. I will put that in after for you to find out details. It's based on 2 people sharing, and it's all inclusive. So if you do come, that's your bed, your breakfast, your dinner, your lunch, your teas, your coffees, and little pastries and stuff like that. Unfortunately, no alcohol. You can pay for that yourself, but everything else is free, and you have access to all of the workshops throughout the days that we are there for. So we have 9 experts coming to speak. Myself included will make 10 experts that we're going to come and talk to you about all different aspects of relationships and how you can move forward and how you can grow and how you can thrive. And I think that's what we all want, and that's what we all need. So book your spot, book your place at the R retreat. Don't delay, don't get left out, don't leave it to the last minute, because trust me, all of the rooms will go. I think we've only got 17 rooms left. So book your spot. And so now we're going to move on. We believe our panel members are in the green room. So who do we have in the green room this evening? Hello, Lolly. How are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good as well. Thank you.
Good. It's been a while, but it's really good to see you, darling. Right, who else do we have? Oh, hello, Mr. Theo.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm well.
Good,
Hello, Miss Bailey.
Hiya, how are you? Oh, well, I just heard you well.
Okay, and who else do we have in the green room? There we go. Hi, Michelle. Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm battling with a cold, but I'm okay. Thank you. I hope you're all well.
Tell the truth, Michelle. It's not a cold. It's not a cold. It's mash up from Sunday. That's what. Just tell the people the truth.
You've been partying.
Tell the people the truth, man. You mash up from Sunday, making up holy praise.
Sunday added to the feeling I already had of the cold. Not COVID, I'm negative. And thank you, Theo. I will talk to you afterwards.
Theo's not convinced.
I saw on Sunday there was no elements of a cold anyway. I've got the video evidence to prove it.
Oh, wow.
There's hundreds of people that have video evidence to prove it. So anyway, we'll move along.
I also have video evidence of him. So let's not even go there.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
So over the weekend, Lethan had his 50th birthday party he had a massive park, and there were loads and loads of people, and Theo and Michelle were in attendance.
They were looking for you, Yvonne.
Were they looking for me?
Yes.
I was working, unfortunately.
She works very hard, doesn't she?
Yeah, I was working. I wanted to go, but the work, man. But never mind. Next time. And I don't have
working.
Is it? I don't have a cold. I'm feeling well. So, guys, welcome to the show. We're talking about letting go. And I wanted to know, really, how do you guys feel? I mean, you guys are on panel, you've listened to the show. How do you feel? I mean, I'm going to go to Theo first. I'd normally go to the ladies first, but I'm going to go to Theo first. Okay. In terms of Theo, when you hear at the beginning of the show, Daniel and I were talking, and Daniel was saying about being a man and how difficult it can be sometimes to really let go because of the expectations of society, culture, or So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree, or what are your thoughts on that?
For some men, yes, definitely. That's why we see a lot of them standing outside off license, bookie shops, drinking, suppressing their feelings. They can't express their feelings because it's not normal for a man to cry, or it's not normal for a man to show that they're not in control. Even if you go to a funeral, a man would try and hide that he's crying. He wants to cry, but he's gone around the corner, and he might just And it's like, so imagine suppressing those things from a child all the way up. It's going to affect you after a while. And you guys were talking about pain in your bodies and stuff like that. That's what's going to be happening to a lot of men. So if you see some men now, some of them are old, they're not even that old, and they've got walking sticks and they've got this and they've got that. So you could imagine that's part of it will be to do with the pain that they've been holding in, the feelings and the emotions, because men are not allowed to show emotions apart from happy or angry. That's it. That's the two emotions that we can show. Anything else is considered weak.
So how do we change that? Is there anything that we can do as there's like 3 females on this here as well. We're women, we have brothers, we have fathers, you know, cousins, what have you not. How do we help to bring about that change? Because, you know, it's when you think about it, like with Theo saying they're outside the off license, and then automatically me and my brain, I can see that because I've seen it. So it just flashes up and you just think, oh, how can we help?
I mean, I think it's changing based on how society and culture is structured at the moment. It's not easy to do that because most of the solutions, you know, are superficial solutions to this. You know, even you know, there's a racism thing, you know, that's happening. It's you know, on the news, and you know, the solutions are superficial solutions. But I think it's when you start to become aware that within you carry stuff, the best thing to do is to do the work yourself. Right. That's because every single bit of sort of inner work, every single time you let go, you help everyone on the planet do the same thing. Because the truth is that there is no separation. We're all one. So ultimately, any time you let go yourself, you give permission for me to do it as well.
Right.
Yeah. So when I let go of grief, I give permission, and I make it easier for every single person on the planet to let go of their grief as well. Just a tiny bit. You'll see the most change will happen to your kids and those directly around you. So when you let go of, let's say, if you're an angry person, you let go of your anger in a safe way, in a meditative, calm way, and now you're no longer angry. The people around you will feel it most, and they'll automatically let go of theirs. So just by doing the work yourself is the most important thing. And then as we do that, then the information about letting go and being comfortable with our emotions will suddenly start to be more widely known, because then people have done the work, will want to communicate that to others, will say, look, you know, I've been through this, I feel, or people will notice how we feel, how we look, how we act with others, and they'll say, you know, well, how come you're feeling so different now? Before you were, you know, what did you do? And they'll notice that, and they'll want to know more. It will happen naturally. I think that's the core way, the real way of doing it, by doing the work ourselves. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
What do you think, guys? You guys are just looking at me like,
No, he's right. Someone just put up a comment that said, be the change you want to see, which is, is that what you said?
Yeah, DS. Yeah, DS says, be the change you want to see. It starts with individual choices and decisions. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I go by that 100%, because me, myself, when I was deep in grief, I woke up one morning and I thought, I've had enough of feeling like this. I'm fed up of it. I'm sick of being miserable. And I thought, do you know what? Today I'm going to decide to be happy. And every day I thought the same thing. It's time to be happy. And so I felt like my happiness was my choice. I could either carry on laying in bed, feeling sorry for myself and sneaking around and putting alcohol in my coffee and letting people think that I'm all right, or I can actually be all right. And so, so I agree with that. Be the change you want to see. And once you change, then you can help others change around you, like your children, your family, your friends. When they see the change in you, it's easier for them to follow. in your footsteps.
Absolutely.
And I think, Lolly, have you seen that in your own life about, once you've changed within, you've seen the others around you, shift in response to what you've done as well?
100%. I mean, when I very first heard of the law of attraction, I thought it was a load of rubbish. Then I started practicing it myself because at the time I thought it was just for money and wealth and stuff like that, not really emotional stuff as well. So once I realized, hang on, I need to do the law of attraction, but not involve wealth or houses or cars, and just work on myself through law of attraction, I started noticing that now my circle of friends, we're all the same. We all think about what we say, do, speak. We are cautious about our whole lives, whereas none of us were like that before. So I think I changed, then one more person changed, and then now we're all very similar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just still working on my children. They think it's hocus pocus.
Okay.
Children are amazing mirrors of us. It's like, when we make really deep shifts within us, we see our children mirror that. I see that with my daughter. I have a 14-year-old daughter,
right? And
as I shift, and whenever she's going through some challenging, she's in a challenging place, first place I look in is myself.
Right.
What comes up when she's going through the challenges? It could be, what do I need to let go of? So yeah, children are amazing.
Children are great.
Yeah.
They are. I seem to have a tickly throat here. Right. So Laura Hill says, in Wales, schools do a lot of work on emotions. They do circle time with pastoral workers. All secondary schools have counsellors now. Things are starting to shift. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Can you hear it? The voice has gone really funny.
Yeah,
it's just like something just jumping on my throat, but it will go in a minute. Yeah. So thank you for that, Laura. God, it does sound funny, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sound like sound like I'm talking through a glass. But yes, and hopefully things like that will happen in the UK, and well, this side of the UK, not Wales.
I think it is starting to happen. You're hearing schools implementing meditation a lot more. They are, starting to look at the inner work. Perhaps they do 5 minutes of just me time, and I think that's so powerful and really important, because we're going through a massive change at the moment, where all our emotions which were previously hidden and suppressed are now coming up. And when they come up, the first thing the mind wants to do is project. So we need to be able to understand what to do when these emotions come up, without blame, without projection, without resorting to violence. So it's so important. And it's the fact that children are starting to do that they're starting to do that in schools is very important.
It is. Oh, okay. So, it says, I love my dad for these things. He has an emotional man. He has an emotional man on occasion. He was an emotional man on occasion. He cried when his sister was having, is that heart surgery? He laughed and cried even when watching a comedy. To me, that is strength. Thank you for that. DS says, yes, children are our biggest teachers. All we need to do is to listen and learn with open heart and mind. And with that comment, I'm going to bring in Michelle. Michelle.
Yes.
Yes.
I was thinking about emotions when you're in a traumatic situation. And the emotions are really raw and immediate, and trying to give yourself time to actually deal with that emotion. I found that in my situations, sometimes I've kind of parked the emotion and I said, right, I can't deal with you right now. I need to deal with the present and deal with what is going on, and then deal with the emotion on another day. And I very clearly remember back in 2004 when I was in a hurricane and everything got annihilated, decimated. Home was damaged, everything, obviously abroad, not here. And I just didn't have time to deal with the emotion. I said to myself, the hurricane was on a Tuesday, and I said, I will deal with you, emotion, next week, Thursday. That's when I'm going to do that, because I had things to do. But I did allow myself that time to sort of sit down and say, okay, I'm going to let it all out now. But yeah, I think sometimes if I hadn't done that, I would have been carrying those emotions that I felt at the time all the way through to today, because literally you're a survivor of the situation. So I think when we acknowledge our emotions and we deal with them however it is that suits us, then we can let them go.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good point. Yeah, parking emotions for another time. However, when you do the inner work and you get used to doing it on a continuous basis and over small things in your life, for example, a little trigger, you see someone give you a funny look in the, when they're walking past you, and you feel that emotion, you let go of that as and when you're just walking or when you're speaking with people. Some people trigger us, and you keep doing that on a continuous basis. Then the more you do that, when the bigger thing comes, then you can do it in that moment. But when you're not used to doing it, then to feel that emotion consciously is very challenging, and it's best, let me just park that for another time. I need to deal with I can't do two things at the same time, so let me just deal with the physical things first. So but when you get to the place, what I want to do with a lot of my clients is for them to get to a state where they're letting go all the time. As soon as it comes up, just feel it. Just feel it, constantly, like, let go of resisting it. And they're doing it on a continuous basis. But it requires, like with any growth, it requires a tremendous amount of will to do that. And that is the key thing. It's the will that will make a difference, nothing else. The tools, techniques, is the will to actually choose love over hate, in our mind, choose to face those feelings. That's what will really make the difference.
Okay, does that make sense? I think that was a pretty brave thing. I mean, I've never lived in a hurricane. I've never been. I don't know what that feels like, but I know what it feels like if the house is shaking like it's an earthquake. I know how that feels from my builders next door. So I can only, that must have been terrifying. To be in that situation.
I think the first one was quite a serious one. Category 3, and it was like 150-mile-an-hour winds. So, obviously I'd never been through anything like that before. But 10 months later, we had another one, which was a smaller one. But because I'd had certain emotions in the first one, I kind of knew what was coming with the next one. And I was able to better deal with my emotions the second time round. And I think, I actually lived the emotions in that moment. I was able to release at that time because I knew I was going to be crying uncontrollably. I knew I'd be really scared and all of the rest of that. And I just owned it. This is what I'm going to be doing for this amount of hours whilst it was happening. And then in the aftermath, I was better able to deal with the other things that I needed to deal with because I was able to deal with the emotions. But the first time, no, I had to park those for a week later, definitely.
It was so calculated that I'll deal with it on Thursday. So I mean, after on a Tuesday, I'll deal with you on Thursday.
It doesn't always happen like that with emotions, because emotions tend to have a mind of their own. It's like you can't always, you can't really ever plan in certain respects, because they just make this random appearance and it's there and now I have to face it. So, it's
but
great.
To be honest, sorry, Daniel, I think also it's, as somebody was saying earlier, a lot of the time Black women are told to be, we're strong, and that strength just kicked in. I did not have time, and I set a time as if I'd opened a file of facts or a diary or something, and I said, that's the day that I'm going to deal with it, because right now I haven't got a roof over my head. I haven't got a car that works. I've got no petrol. There's no food. There's no electricity. There's no water. I'm wearing wellies in the house. The doors can't lock, or the windows are broken. I've got to speak to the insurance. I can't get on the phone. So therefore, I knew that I had to park it for another day when at least I could tick through all the other things that I had to do. And I don't know, sometimes some people in those kind of situations are very calm. I'm quite calm in those situations because it was a horrific trauma, if you like. It wasn't your everyday emotion. I just had to suppress it. But I knew that I had to deal with it at some point, because otherwise I would have been a nervous.
Yeah. I think it's to make sure that you go back and deal with it, though, isn't it?
Yeah, because otherwise they'll resurface anyway. And this is when, you know, when soldiers go to war and they don't, you know, they're soldiers and policemen even, they're really very much conditioned to push the emotion down. But in doing that, you know, constantly over and over again, at some point they're going to surface in either in a physical, emotional outburst in some way. They're just going to explode, and you know. And so, if that explosion happens, then okay, let's feel that consciously. You know. Yeah.
You know, I wish I'd have had this conversation 2 weeks ago. Yeah, because you know, last week, you know, I think. And now I can understand exactly what happened last week and how emotional that I was feeling and what the trigger was as well. I could just see it, and it makes sense. And it was really about suppressing all of that, all that was going on around me. Just keep it. This has been going on. For those of you who don't know, I've got some bills at the side of my house, right? And it's been doing my head in. So this has been going on all throughout the lockdown. So for the last 18 months. This has been going on. They stopped building for a little while. Then they got the go ahead and they came back. Last year was really hot, right? And the sun was shining in my garden. I'm here, dust coming over. So I've been going through this and I've been suppressing. Okay, it's okay. It'll be over soon. Then last week, I was just triggered, and then the heavens opened. And I just couldn't stop crying. And I'm like, why am I crying? But it's because I suppressed all of that, all of the emotion for all of that time.
And it may not even have been just that. It could have been other stuff as well. And it all came out then.
And it came out. And so, So we're back this week. There you go.
Yeah.
So without, you know, airing my laundry in public, but you know, I'm very, very much, as you guys know, if you've been watching over the last 18 months, you will know that I'm very transparent. I say it as it is, and you know, I'm not going to hide. And so for me, this was like the timing of this has been great in terms of letting go and on what we want to achieve at the retreat as well. The whole to help people to move forward in their life, really move, not just say we're help doing it, but really take that time, make those steps and really, you know, move forward in letting go.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most vital and important things that we can do at this time to actually really get in touch with and face everything that comes up. And to show others how to do how it can be done, and people will see when we've done it, because we'll be lighter, we'll be happier, we won't be carrying so much anymore. We'll be healthier as well, because when you keep pushing the emotions down, it requires energy to do that. So when you suppress an emotion, the energy of the emotion is not available to you. And the energy you used to push it down is not available to you. So when you release it, all of a sudden now you've got the energy of the emotion, now it's yours, but also the energy you used to push it down is yours. So you've got more energy for your immune system, you've got more energy for creativity, you've got energy to start a business, you've got energy, you know, for creating more connection and love in a relationship. But when we've pushed that down, we're using that energy to, it's like, I say all the time, keeping a balloon
Right.
pushed underwater. It constantly wants to go up, like emotions, and we're using the energy to keep it pushed down. And then there's it's a bigger balloon, and then now anyway.
Yeah, so you keep
Yeah.
It's funny how the analogy of water keeps coming up, but you mentioned water at the beginning with the fire in the water in terms of how things work. You mentioned about
water is very for example, if we dream about water in our dreams, it means it's an emotional aspect.
Right. Did you get that, guys?
So so when I was younger, I used to have a dream about a tidal wave coming towards me. And I'd constantly be running away from this tidal wave in my dream. And one day I remember I turned to face the tidal wave and thought, you know what? I'm just going to face this. I'm just going to, this was in my dream. I don't know why I made that decision. And it's only later on that I found out that water in your dreams is literally a sign of emotion. And I had this tidal wave of emotion. I was always running away from it.
Right.
Yeah. So, we have a lot of signals in our life, maybe that are water related, that my girlfriend, she has a well in her house,
right,
in her living room. It's like a
well.
Yeah, and it's glass, it's covered.
Right, like a real well,
yeah, exactly. And there were some. She was going through an emotional time, and funnily enough, the water in the well was at the highest point it's been in there, and she was actually thinking, "Oh my God, is it going to break through?"
Oh right.
But so we'll get these signals,
right,
and they could be coincidence, or they could actually be something that we've been trying to be signals shown to us by the universe, saying, "Look, maybe you have to have a look at this. Maybe you have to, look at the emotions or some aspect with regards to that thoughts." Yeah,
that's a well. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone got a well in their living room? It's one over there. Right. So, guys, do you have any questions for Daniel, our panel members, as we are coming up to the end of the show?
Yes, I do. Daniel, can I ask you? You were talking about carrying burdens. We were talking about the pains in the shoulders and things like that. And if you feel that you have an obligation that you have to carry out, and that's how you see it as a burden, how do you stop that from manifesting psychosomatically? Because you haven't got any way of getting away from that obligation. It's something that has to happen. So how would you deal with that?
Is the obligation causing stress, and is there tension towards it? So I would just feel whatever tension arises with regards to that obligation. So I'm assuming it's something that is repeating, something that you have to continuously do. Yeah. So whenever you do it, you will feel tension. So if you allow yourself to feel that consciously, without resisting it, without wanting it to go, then you may discover that underneath the obligation is something else, is another feeling, which is more core towards yourself. And when that is released, then you will find that either the need to change the obligation will fall away, or then you'll be okay. It's fine. I'm comfortable doing this. There's no tension in me whatsoever. I'm completely happy because you've let go of the feelings. You've let go of what's inside of you by feeling it consciously. So, I would just say, just be conscious every time it comes up, feel it, and drop the story. Really important to drop any story about, why am I doing this? I shouldn't be doing this. They should be doing this, or whatever it is. I don't know. But whatever story comes up, you immediately drop it, and you just experience the felt energy of the emotion manifesting within you. Could be, I don't know, if you're experiencing the burden obligate, where is it? Where do you feel it in your body? Like in your
shoulders.
So just allow yourself to feel that without resistance. Okay, it's there, you know. And this, depending on how deep rooted it is, it may take 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, a day, 2 days, or longer. You know, some of our feelings, we have a huge reservoir of them. You know, if we've been carrying around burdens all our life because we've had some unconscious program that we should, it may take a while. But each time you do, you feel it consciously and you allow it. And then you feel, oh, okay, so just, I feel slightly lighter. You know, you feel a release, and you keep doing that. But again, you've got to drop the goals. That's the other thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I hope that helps. Theo, do you want to come back in and say something else, Michelle?
No, so definitely that helps. Thank you.
Mr. Mandelson.
No, I was going to ask Daniel, is there some, like, as I was talking about the men, about, is there something that men could do, you know, so, because he's talking about feeling it and holding it. And, you know, that's not something that men really want to actually experience because of. So is there something that men could do collectively or to kind of like own their feelings? I don't know if I'm trying to phrase it right. I'm just trying to phrase it. Is it still the same process? Just have to actually own it and feel it? Because what happens with feelings, you kind of pile more different emotions on top. It becomes layered, isn't it? So
yeah, it's important just to feel it and to give yourself permission to do just that. And as always, drop the story, drop the thought patterns consciously with will, intense will, because you may want, some people want to be stuck in this in negativity in the story, and you know, they want to continue to think about, you know, be angry. And each person will arrive at this journey at different times, and you shouldn't push anyone that's not ready to do this process. They'll be like, no, I'd rather drink, you know. Okay, that's what you have to do to go down that path. Okay. Maybe you can try and, you know, work on yourself and work on your own blocks, because, you know, if you have a friend, for example, who is suffering, by working on yourself, again, like I said earlier, you will help that person, you know, letting go of the judgment of them, letting go of, you know, your misperception of them, or, you know, so it's just really about doing the work yourself. And collectively, as men start to do this work, you know, there'll be more and more people talking about this and more workshops. And eventually, you know, this will be something that is, I think this is one of the most important things you can do to improve humanity. You know, just because, you know, all of the wars, all of the conflicts exist because of what's inside of us. And when we let go of what's inside of us, then we no longer experience conflict. You know, we don't, you know, we just live in a beautiful way. And I think that is possible. And I think it's very possible that we start to see this change happen in humanity very soon.
We're going to need to before the world ends.
Daniel, would you say it's like, you know, like to say that someone going to rehab?
Yeah.
You kind of like have to wait for the right time to kind of like for them to reach that place where they can say, yes, it's time for me to move forward now. Yeah, you have to, they have to make that choice themselves. Now, you can say certain things to open their eyes to, you know, the possibility that, you know, looking within or going on into rehab or, you know, would help them. But I think it's far more important to actually do the work within yourself. And you can do the work
collectively, like for example, there's something called Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No, I've not heard of
It's
that.
called the Hawaiian method of forgiveness, and it's it's four simple phrases. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you.
Yeah.
So if you see someone going through a difficult time and that brings up an emotional charge within you, then you take responsibility for your aspect, because there's an emotional charge. So when you release that in some way, even that may have nothing to do with it, there'll be a connection there. And by working on your own emotional state, you can help influence that. But that's that's a more spiritual level of understanding in that respect. But yeah, I think you have to give people space and time to take that first step. Because when you push them, they'll resist. You know, it's like we see it with our children. Once you push them, there's a resistance. With our partners, when you push, there's resistance. So the best thing to do is, if you feel like pushing them, get in touch with that feeling of wanting to push them and let go of that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just hog for a little bit. Because I think everyone asked earlier, what can women do to help men? And I think what you just said is a key one, because I think a lot of the times men will resist when the woman's like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And it will come up with a resistance, and it will come up with an anger and stuff. So I think what you just said is key. Hold that. You want to push. Why do you want to push in that? So I think that's a good point you just made there.
Yeah. The pushing comes from fear. You know, from control, because we don't, you know, in itself, it's fear of something within ourselves, and that's a feeling we've unresolved or haven't resolved. So when we're like, okay, let me just feel that and let go, then all of a sudden, you know, you give the space for the man then to make that change, and it doesn't affect you because you've dealt with your own emotion.
Yeah,
and that's really powerful.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's where a lot of the conflict happens in relationship, is from somebody wanting somebody else to do something and they're not doing it, and it becomes frustrating. But we're not looking at, and everybody looks at it from their point of view and not from the other person's point of view, and then it's like you're always making excuses, but you haven't actually realized that it's you are causing the problem because you are got a fear or your own hang-ups about something else. I think you were saying earlier about childhood trauma and things coming up from, but we haven't dealt with it, or we didn't realize it's an issue, isn't it? So
yeah, exactly. And
it's a problem.
Yeah. Even with our children as well, what I often get some of my clients who have children, I get them, okay, let go of all control with your children. You know, they're allowed to go into bed whatever time. You know, they're allowed to do this. Allow them to do whatever they want to do and see what comes up in you.
Wow.
Yeah, because you'll often see we're trying to control our children to not face the feeling we have within. And when we let go of the control, all those feelings come up then. All the fear, all the anxiety will start to come up within us when we let go of trying to control our children. And that is the feelings that are stopping us from the loving communication to get through. So when we dissolve those feelings, the fear, the anxiety, or maybe the anger that comes up, then all of a sudden now our words come from that loving, connected space. Whereas before the children weren't listening, now they will start to listen because we've dissolved those core emotions within us. And that's, for me, the most powerful form of parenting.
Oh. Okay.
See, Laura Hill says it comes from a place of love that makes women nag men about things.
At the core, yeah.
I love it, Laura. I love it.
But it depends on what kind of love, Laura. Is it anger love, or is it?
Oh, I love it. Oh dear. This is Laura's saying this is so true, especially with a teenager. This is I'd love to get Ruth, the Liberty coach, on. She's a parenting expert, and she works with young people. I'd love to get her take on what you just said about that.
Yeah. I was working with a parent a few months ago, and she had a very challenging son. And it was and I basically got her to allow him to do what he wants to do. And that means not nagging him about going to school. And if he gets detention, he gets detention. See what that brings up in yourself. She bravely, some of my clients haven't been able to do this. She bravely done this and faced the feelings that got triggered within her. Now her son gets up, puts on his own alarm, goes to school on time, all of that, and she doesn't have to say a thing.
Wow.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Wow.
Yeah, and she showed me a really lovely testimonial as well. So yeah, that thing is certainly possible.
Right. Okay.
Can I just say something about that, please, Daniel? Somebody's told me to do that as well before, but that is the point where I say, no, I can't do it, because I think it depends on your background and what you see happening perhaps in your community, what may happen to a child that looks like yours if they start to go down a certain path of getting detentions and things like that. So it can be very, very difficult to do something like that, because the treatment that one child might get may be very different from another child. So I think for a lot of, especially Black mothers, it's really hard to do that and say, I've had this conversation with many people about letting go in that way. And it is every sinew of my being if I had to do that. And I think I'd lose it. I think I'd absolutely lose it, because I'm not in control of it. And I'm just looking at the implications later on down. That kind of thing is, you think I can let go in this aspect of my life or that aspect. But when it comes to your child, especially your teenage son, that's a tough one, really tough one. I just wanted to put that out there.
I knew you was going to come in, Michelle, because I was going to say, let's just go over to Michelle for 1 minute. I was going to come right to you. I knew that you'd find that one difficult. Luckily for me, my children are grown, so I'm not in that situation. But, I do have a grandson, and, in allowing him to do much, it grates my son. It really does grate him. But in allowing him to express himself and to do what he wants to do at times, I do find, and maybe it's because he's young, because he's only 5, that he kind of just falls into line anyway. And maybe it's because he's that age. I don't know. But like I say, my children are a lot older, so we don't have those kind of conflicts.
Yeah. It's a challenging thing to do. It's very challenging, and you have to trust. But I find that when you do it and you face all the feelings that come up within you, and if there's fear, then when you let go of your fear, your child is going to let go of theirs, because there's something called emotional transference. So as you let go of what's within you, your child will let go of what's within them, the fears. So often I know what work I have to do by looking at my daughter and seeing what she's still afraid of, what she's limiting blocks she has. And I'm like, okay, I still need to let go of some things within myself. So yes, it's difficult to do that, but the more you let go of, the more it will seem the normal, natural thing to do, to completely allow people to be exactly the way they are. And okay, so now this fear comes, let me let go of that. And you will start to trust that everything that happens is perfect and is sort of divinely orchestrated for everyone's highest growth. But it takes time to get to that place, and you may not like to do it with this, and that's okay. That's fine. You don't have to.
I think what we have to, in my head, what I'm saying is, you got to remember that this isn't about the child's behavior, it's about yours and you and dealing with you. So I mean, I'm not in that situation, so so it's fine for me to talk.
Yeah.
I can, but for me, it's like, okay, so you'd have to think about it. The child's doing this, but what feeling does it bring in me for me to deal with? Not think about the child, but this is about me. What's going on internally with me?
Yeah.
And then deal with it from that point of view. But I think in most case scenarios, parents are like, it's the child. What do I need to do for him? What do I need to do for her? How do I need to navigate them?
Yeah.
In terms of making them do what you would want them to do.
Yeah. And this can be the challenge because the child is a different person. They're not you.
Yeah.
They live their life in the way, they, according to their heart, to their feelings, or, maybe peer pressure, who knows? And that's very challenging thing to do.
It's very challenging.
But at the same time, I think when you can do it, it's, if you try and control your outside world, sometimes you're going to be trying to control this forever. So you have to bring your attention and awareness to where you truly have the power. And that is your thoughts and your feelings. And when you can dissolve the blockages within, then now all of a sudden your words come from love and connection. And now there no longer needs to be control, but just guidance. Have you ever thought about doing this way? When you've got that connection, that true connection, your child will listen to you. Yeah, regardless if they're a teenager or, they may listen, they may choose their own path, but at least they'll listen. And it will come from love because there's truly love there.
Wow, thank you for that. Faye Thomas says, I think if we have set morals and standards from the early age, they will recognize that actually you will be right and so the very things that they have asked of them. I think that's what she says. Right. Yeah, it's over there it's easy to read, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not as easy. We're reading on the screen. So
can I say something about that quickly?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I noticed with my own children, and it's advice that I give my friends as well. I don't know if it's correct, but it's worked for me, that when your child does something, your reaction is what decides if it's going to be a negative outcome or not. For instance, if one of my children did something to upset me, let's say they said something rude and then walked off and slammed the door, I used to go after them. How dare you slam the door in my face? What do you think you're doing? That's it. Our day's ruined. We're arguing for an hour or two. I'm arguing with a child. But I realized that if my child shouted at me and slammed the door, I'd leave them for a little while, then go in the room and ask them, what is actually the matter with you? Like, how can I help? So I think as well, sometimes it's not just, what was I trying to say? It's not just about letting your children do what you want. It's our communication with them as well. If I let their actions anger me, then that's all the ripple effect is just going to be anger all day. And since I started thinking about my reaction before I react, our lives have changed for the better dramatically.
Yeah, there's a difference between reacting and responding, isn't there?
Yeah, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
That's so powerful what you said. Ultimately, if we're in that charged emotional state,
we react.
We believe and we think that charge came from our children, will have no influence over that, our children. But once we let go of that charge and we're calm and we're like, then we can go to them and ask, what's wrong, and that is very powerful.
And I tell you, when I first started doing that, my children opened up to me so much. I felt like actually I've just realized I didn't know them, because the things they come to me and tell me now would have kept it secret from me or wouldn't have never opened up. And it's just made our relationship, like I said, it's just 1,000 times better than it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real good point. Thanks for sharing that, Lolly. Because we see a lot of families in disarray, especially now we've been locked down and spending so much time with each other, and it's like, So I think that when we can respond, like she said, she let them calm down, went in, and it was like, how can I help you, rather than you slamming my door and all of that. Is how can I help you? What is actually going on with you? If you approaching anyone like that, really, the response that you get back would be far better than that. So to respond, I always say response comes out of love, reaction comes out of fear. When you react, you're reacting out of fear, and so you're there, and you're going at the person at the level that they're at. So if you can take that away and bring yourself low, not in terms of lower, but bring that calmness, that stillness to the situation, it will be better. So yeah, this is
100%. And often for that to happen, we have to, let go of, blame or, some past emotional pattern. But when we can do that, then all of a sudden we can create a different reality with our children or with our partner. So yeah.
Absolutely. Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
It's going back to the trauma and emotions and so forth. Like, I know how I've come to the place that I'm at. I know what work I did. And I know that also it's taken me years to get to where I am now. But when people say, how do I heal myself? They think it's going to be a quick, overnight thing for a start, and it's not. What would your advice be to someone that is seeking to deal with past trauma and don't know where to start?
I think always be honest with yourself as well. I think that's really important. But, you're looking for someone who's been on the same journey as well. So, for example, if someone wants to heal from their trauma, someone who's actually done the same, healed their own trauma, is one person to speak to. And qualified counselors, therapists are great, but they also have to have done their own work themselves, which is so important.
Yeah.
And I think you can speak to someone who's done qualifications, but if they haven't undertaken their own inner journey, they're not really going to fully understand what is required.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the most important aspects. So, and it may be that they need to do some digging, but that's the kind of advice is, what kind of, when you're, speaking with a therapist or counselor and you're asking them, what have you done? How have you healed your own traumas? And you have to ask those questions. That's for me, that's vitally important. Definitely.
Yeah.
Can I just say something to Yvonne quickly?
Yes, yes,
Yvonne, you may not know this, but I'm going to tell you now. You actually helped my journey a lot because you gave me a mantra to read every day, which I did do, and I know off by heart. But I also added to it. I added to the beginning and the end some of my own pieces. And I say it every day in the mirror while I'm moisturizing my face.
Yeah.
Because it's important to me that I'm getting the message across to me. So for looking at my own reflection, that helps me a lot. Yeah. And I just wanted to say that at the beginning that I added a lot, but I'm only going to read the first sentence.
No, if you can, do you know what?
It's a lot.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I always start with, who am I today? What is the greatest expression of myself that I can present to the world today? Because I'm not living in the past and being my old self. I'm going to let go of all of my pain, all of my sickness, and all of my sadness. And so I just wanted to say that because I think if you never gave me that mantra in the first place, which allowed me to add to it, I wouldn't be as far along in my own journey as I am. So thank you.
You are very, very welcome, my darling. You're very, very, very welcome. I do a lot of work with affirmations, mantras, and mirror work. Those of the ladies that know, everything starts with me. That is my saying. And and then I'll say, when I don't mean me, it starts with you, but everything, that's what we say. Everything starts with me. And it is about taking 100% responsibility, no matter what it is. And, even through my own traumas. And I want to say, Lorraine, thank you so much. Very humbling for you to say that. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that you are on the journey that you're on.
Thank you.
And you've been very, very inspirational. But even in my own journey, in terms of taking responsibility, I remember saying, because I went through sexual violence as a child, right? And I specifically was on something on Facebook or something, and I wrote something, and I said I take 100% responsibility for it. And I got a backlash. Like, how could you take 100% responsibility for that? Something that happened to you as a child, you didn't have any, I had no way of stopping it or anything. But it's how I thought about it, how I received it, what I did with the information when I got to an age to understand, actually, this is not the right thing that's going on. I had to take responsibility for not speaking up. Those are when I say I took 100% responsibility for the trauma, it's the whole thing. Yeah. And it was reclaiming back who I am before that happened. So I went before that. Then there was the pocket of time, which I call it a pocket of time, which does not determine who I am now. It does not at all. But going through that trauma and working through that and actually letting that go and letting the perpetrator go and letting those emotions that I had go with everything. There's lots of things that went with it, court case and all those kinds of things. But when you start to take responsibility and you start to see, okay, this is my life, and I can see that there's some issues here. I can see that, I'm not really coping. I've suppressed all of this stuff, and I really need to deal with it. And you kind of like take each part out, because there's, sometimes with trauma, there's a lot to it. It's not just one thing. There's many layers to it. Yeah. So sometimes you have to take a layer at a time, a bit like an onion. Yeah. You peel it back, and I've used this as an analogy actually in a talk before with an onion, and actually stood there on stage and peeled back the onion, and all the tears, because onions make you cry, and that's and it's about releasing all of that, all of the emotion. So that's in terms of everything starts with me, and the types of things that I do. So I just really wanted to thank Lorraine for saying that.
What you have done was the right thing, because otherwise that trauma you would have been carrying in your relationships throughout your whole life, and then you're wondering why they're failing and not realizing it's because you haven't let go of the trauma from your childhood.
Well, I did carry it into relationships. I think we're coming to the end of the show. We've only got a few more minutes left, but I did, and that's what I did do, and I own that now, and I can quite clearly say I did bring the past into relationships, but I made the choice not to continue in any relationship until I did the work.
And I think because you took 100% responsibility, that's what enables deep healing.
Yeah.
Only, I think the more we go on this journey, the more responsibility we take, until at one point we've got to take 100% responsibility where the deepest possible healing happens. That's so important.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I believe we are out of time. Yes, we are. I think we've gone over by a few minutes, but it doesn't matter. I want to thank Daniel. Thank you so much.
Yvonne.
This has been so good. Do you know what? You're going to have to come back.
My pleasure. I'd love to.
You're going to have to come back, because I think that this has been very, very helpful to a lot of people. Guys, do remember that you can contact me on info@yvonnemichelle.com. If you have any comments that you haven't put on the comment thread and you want to let me know how you're getting on, what Daniel said, what was good for you, what was bad for you, what was indifferent, please be in contact. Let me know how you've got on. I want to thank everybody for being on the show. Those of you who are on Facebook, those of you who are on YouTube, those of you who are on MediaNet Live TV, I want to thank you for joining us. We're getting lots of powerful words in the comment thread. Amazing show. Caught the last minute, yet so empowering. Thank you, Nelsa. A fabulous show from Laura Hill. Laura Hill will be coming in soon as well. She's our red flag lady. She's going to come and tell us what red flags really are. Oh, yes. And how we see them from the beginning. Because sometimes, you know, you get a red flag and it's like 3 months later, oh, that's a red flag. No, she's going to be giving us some tools and tips that will show us immediately that's a red flag. Time to learn from that, learn from what you see from the person and quickly move on. Anyway, Karen James saying, great show. Special hello to Michelle and Theo. See that? Karen James is saying that. Hello, everyone. But here, DS is saying, yes, we have had... We have to heal first. Thank you very much. Right, guys, we're out of here. Want to thank you. We'll be back next week between the hours of 9 and 11 next Tuesday for the After Dark show. Ciao for now.
You ready? You got me running. Got me running. Take it.